What's up, Canon family? My name is JT, and today we're going over spiritual books that you need to start your spiritual journey. Now, this isn't going to be like a list of like hundreds of books. I could do a part 2 if you guys want, but I'm only going to give a couple that really help you think outside the box and develop spiritually. If you're new to the channel, my name's JT, and I love helping you grow more spiritual, grow closer to whatever you define as the divine. So, if that sounds right up your alley, go ahead and click subscribe. Now, the first book we have is very popular, okay? I have a couple indie books, but this first one's popular. It's titled The Fifth Agreement, not The Fourth Agreement, The Fifth Agreement. This book, guys, is phenomenal, okay? According to this book, I'm going to give you a brief summary. It basically says we make agreements with ourselves and the people around us ever since we are born. And all of these symbols play a role in how we view our lives and the lives of the people around us. Now, there are 4 agreements. I'll go ahead and read them out for you. Be impeccable with your word, number 1. Don't take anything personally, number 2. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Be skeptical, but learn to listen. Now, this book is super duper short. It's literally, this one is about 200 pages, and the font is like really big, and the book isn't even like, it's about the size of my hand, okay? So it's really not that big, and it's a quick read, but I tell you guys, every line has a purpose. Like, a lot of spiritual books have maybe filler in them. This book doesn't. And fun fact, this book is actually based off of an old South American tradition and civilization known as the Toltecs, where wisdom is passed down orally. Now, the second book, which for some reason nobody talks about, it's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Outwitting the Devil. Napoleon Hill's the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. Guys, this book slaps, okay? Here's what happens. Napoleon somehow finds a way to have a conversation with the devil. And I mean, like, not just like, hey, what's up, dude? Like, I mean a deep conversation. And it goes over the different ways the devil distracts you from your path in life. Whether that be through what he defines as drifting, whether it be through lust or love, whether it be through drugs or alcohol. It goes over a whole lot of stuff. This was the very first book I read when I was getting into spirituality. Actually, the second one. And guys, it changed the way I view the devil and I view the negative aspects. Now, you don't have to believe in the devil to read this book, okay? Instead of thinking the devil as a person, think of it as a type of consciousness. You have good consciousness, which is what some would term the Christ conscious, and you have the bad conscience, which some would talk about and say is maybe like the Luciferian, or in this case, I call it the devil conscience. What's cool about this book is that it was never supposed to be released. Napoleon wanted to release it, but it took 80 years, or I think 80. Eventually he died, and after that, 10 years later, his wife ended up publishing it for him. Now, the devil in this book warns him not to publish the book because it'll tarnish his legacy. Now, did his legacy get tarnished? I'm going to leave that to you. But this one is a super good read. Out of all these, I definitely would read this one first. Now, the third book is one we've all heard about. It's The Power of Now by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so sorry if I get it wrong. We're just going to call it Eckhart Tolle, okay? This book slaps. Honestly, this book is really just about awareness and the power of awareness and being aware of your thoughts. It's about taking the time to meditate and about how to clear your mind and how to think clear. And if you don't know, meditation has tons of benefits. I mean, like thousands. There's not just like 1 or 2, there are thousands. I myself used to have ADHD, and I was taking Adderall and prescription medication, but once I started meditating, I didn't need it anymore. In this book, he talks a lot about what he calls the now, which is the present moment. He makes a discussion and argument that the past does not exist and the future does not exist. All that really exists is the now. The past is just our perspective of it, and our perspective is most always wrong. And the future has not happened yet, so it can't be real. So he says radically focusing on the now is the best way to achieve happiness. Let me read you some of the titles of this book. Okay, you got You Are Not Your Mind, Consciousness, The Way Out of Pain, The Meaning of Surrender, The Inner Body, The State of Presence, Enlightened Relationships. This book is really a go-to guide, and out of all these books, this is a must-have for anybody on their spiritual journey. You cannot not know about him if you are considering yourself maybe a spiritual person. Okay, this guy is like beyond famous. He's like the Jesus of spiritual movements. Now we get to our more picks that you probably have never really thought to read. Okay, this one, the first one, I know no one has ever read. Okay, it's called Use the Force. It's a Jedi's Guide to Law of Attraction. Now, I myself am a Jedi fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. So this book really put the Law of Attraction into perspective. And if you want to see me do more videos on universal laws and laws of attraction, let me know. But one universal law in particular, the Law of Attraction, which has become like so popular nowadays, okay? This book goes over it. But it goes over it in kind of a fun way since it's using what Jedis would do. And they're in no means by just the Law of Attraction. There are like tons of other laws that you definitely need to know about. It's literally science and literally the way the universe works. So it's in your best interest to know about it. Some of the key things this book is going to talk about is going to talk about the power of gratitude and the power of visualizing. I myself struggle with visualizing, but I do have a very, very firm gratitude practice. And if you haven't done either of those, they will level up your life in like a new way. In fact, I'm going to do videos on the importance of gratitude and how to better visualize once I myself get a better grasp on it. Now, the final book we have, you may not have expected this one, but we're going to read any religious text. And I personally prefer to read Hindu text, and I read the Bible. Okay, but in this case, I specifically recommend the Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you don't know, there are like, I think, 20 different Hindu texts, and a couple of them all talk about like spirituality at its finest. So basically, this guy in the middle of a battle, okay, he's looking at a battle, and he's about to kill the people on the other side of the battle. But on the other side of the battle, he sees his neighbors and people he knew, and he has a hard time fulfilling his duty. He's a general of the army. So this Lord comes down, the spiritual teacher, he comes down and tells him and influences him all about this decision and help him wrestle with this idea of like right and wrong. Now, since we talked about universal laws before in the Jedi book, which is in the description, it's really helpful to talk about another universal law when you read this book, which is called the law of relativity. It means that everything in this world is neutral. Nothing is either good or bad. A good example of this is maybe you get $10. You're like, man, that's amazing. But to someone who has $1 trillion, that $10 would be like, I'm not even going to pick it up. There's no point. I make more than that every second. So your perspective on it is changed. But it doesn't mean that that money that was on the ground is fundamentally good or bad. Your perspective on it is what is good or bad. And even then, that is subject to interpretation. I highly recommend the Bhagavad Gita, especially if you're into religions like I am and you enjoy thinking deeply and want to broaden your horizons. Especially if you live in like the Western Hemisphere or maybe in America or Europe. This is like a go-to book. I just hit myself in the face. And that's it. These are the books I recommend if you are starting out your spiritual journey. I'm going to recap them. We got The Fifth Agreement. We got The Power of Now. We have Outwitting the Devil. We have the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible, or really any other text you want. And we have Use the Force, a Jedi's Guide to the Law of Attraction. If you like content like this, go ahead and click follow. And what books are you reading? Because I am looking to get a couple new books for my spirituality and to develop further. So I want to know what you're reading, so maybe I can get those and maybe do some reviews. And speaking of that, do you want to see reviews? If you do, let me know what book you want to see a review on. I'm more than happy to review it and kind of give you like a really in-depth analysis of it. If you haven't already, click subscribe and join the Canon family. I love you guys. Peace.